Jesus, knowing all that was going to happen to him, went out and asked them, "Who is it you want?" "Jesus of Nazareth," they replied. "I am he," Jesus said, and Judas the traitor was standing there with them. When Jesus said, "I am he," they drew back and fell to the ground. Again he asked them, "Who is it you want?" And they said, "Jesus of Nazareth." "I told you that I am he," Jesus answered. "If you are looking for me, then let these men go." John 18:4-8. Talk about strength. The sheer force of Jesus' bold presence knocks the whole pose over. A few years ago, a good man gave me a copy of a poem Ezra Pound wrote about Christ, called Ballad of the Goodly Fair. It's become my favorite. Written from the perspective of one of the men who followed Christ, perhaps Simon Zelotes. It'll make a lot more sense if you know that fair is an Old English word that means mate or companion. How we lost the goodliest fair of all, for the priests and the gallows tree. Aye, lover he was of brawny men, o' ships and the open sea. When they came wi' a host to take our man, his smile was good to see. "First let those go," quo' our goodly fair, "or I'll see ye damned," says he. Aye, he sent us out through the crossed high spears, and the scorn of his laugh rang free. "Why took ye not me when I walked about alone in the town?" says he. Oh, we drunk his hail in the good red wine, when we last made company. No Capone priest was the goodly fair, but a man o' men was he. I ha' seen him drive 100 men, wi' a bundle o' cords swung free, that they took the high and holy house for their pawn and treasury. I ha' seen him cow 1,000 men on the hills o' Galilee. They whined as he walked out calm between, wi' his eyes like the grey o' the sea. Like the sea that brooks no voyaging, with the winds unleashed and free. Like the sea that he cowed at Gennesaret, with twayed words spoke suddenly. A master of men was the goodly fair, a mate of the wind and sea. If they think they have slain our goodly fair, they are fools eternally. Jesus is no capon priest, no pale-faced altar boy with his hair parted in the middle, speaking softly, avoiding confrontation, who at last gets himself killed because he has no way out. He works with wood, commands the loyalty of dock workers. He is the Lord of hosts, the captain of angel armies. And when Christ returns, he is at the head of a dreadful company, mounted on a white horse, with a double-edged sword, his robe dipped in blood. Revelations 19. Now that sounds a lot more like William Wallace than it does Mother Teresa. No question about it, there's something fierce in the heart of God. What about adventure? If you have any doubts as to whether or not God loves wildness, spend a night in the woods, alone. Take a walk out in a thunderstorm. Go for a swim with a pod of killer whales. Get a bull moose Manitou. Whose idea was this anyway? The Great Barrier Reef with its great white sharks, the jungles of India with their tigers, the deserts of the Southwest with all those rattlesnakes, would you describe them as nice places? Most of the earth is not safe, but it's good. That struck me a little too late when hiking in to find the upper Kenai River in Alaska. My buddy Craig and I were after the salmon and giant rainbow trout that live in those icy waters. We were warned about bears, but didn't really take it seriously until we were deep into the woods. Grizzly sign was everywhere, salmon stern about the trail, their heads bitten off, piles of droppings the size of small dogs, Huge claw marks on the trees about head level. We're dead, I thought. What are we doing out here? It then occurred to me that after God made all this, He pronounced it good, for heaven's sake. It's His way of letting us know He rather prefers adventure, danger, risk, the element of surprise. This whole creation is unapologetically wild. God loves it that way. But what about His own life? We know He has a battle to fight. But does God have an adventure to live? I mean, He already knows everything that's going to happen, right? How could there be any risk to His life? Hasn't He got everything under absolute control? In an attempt to secure the sovereignty of God, theologians have overstated their case and left us with a chess player God playing both sides of the board, making all His moves and all ours too. But clearly this is not so. God is a person who takes immense risks. No doubt the biggest risk of all was when He gave angels and men free will, including the freedom to reject Him. Not just once, but every single day. Does God cause a person to sin? Absolutely not, says Paul, Galatians 2:17. Then He can't be moving all the pieces on the board, because people sin all the time. Fallen angels and men use their powers to commit horrendous daily evil. Does God stop every bullet fired at an innocent victim? Does He prevent teenage liaisons from producing teenage pregnancies? There is something much more risky going on here than we've often willing to admit. Most of us do everything we can to reduce the element of risk in our lives. We wear our seatbelts, watch our cholesterol, and practice birth control. I know some couples who have decided against having children altogether. They simply aren't willing to chance the heartache children often bring. What if they are born with a crippling disease? What if they turn their backs on us and God? What if... God seems to fly in the face of all caution. Even though He knew what would happen, what heartbreak and suffering and devastation would follow upon our disobedience, God chose to have children. And unlike some hyper-controlling parents who take away every element of choice they can from their children, God gave us a remarkable choice. He did not make Adam and Eve obey Him. He took a risk, a staggering risk with staggering consequences. He let others into His story, and He lets their choices shape it profoundly. This is the world He has made. This is the world that is still going on. And He doesn't walk away from the mess we've made of it. Now He lives, almost cheerfully, certainly heroically, in a dynamic relationship with us and with our world.